Hello and welcome back to another out of spec detailing video here from Clear Detailing in Northern Colorado. In front of me here we have a Polestar 1 in the shop this week to get fully dialed in and protected. In today's video though, I'm going to be showcasing to you guys how to do a deep clean but also be delicate at the same time. This of course is a factory matte painted finish on here, and we need to be extra diligent that we're not scratching the heck out of this thing because you can't really fix this stuff whatsoever. This could also apply to very soft non-metallic gloss black paint that is just super prone to scratching. So today we're going to be walking through all the chemicals, all the steps, and the best practices to do a deep clean on your car effectively, but also be very safe when doing so. So welcome back to the channel. Let's jump into it. Well guys, thanks for joining me here today, and yet again, just super excited to have a Polestar 1 in the shop. These things, man, I can't even tell you how few and far between and how hard it is to find one of these out there. They made a very limited run of these. I don't think they really sold well because this was a $150,000+ vehicle. The weird thing is you could actually rent these at Hertz for a while. They had, maybe they still do, they had a fleet of these actually that you could actually rent out, which is kind of mind-blowing considering what this car is. So if you don't know anything about this car, the Polestar 1 has a 4-cylinder up front that is both turbocharged and supercharged. Then it's got 2 electric motors out at the rear and another electric motor for the starter situation. So again, this thing's just crazy. 600+ horsepower in this thing, super complicated, fully carbon fiber body, and just feels really special, really unique. I always say this is kind of like a GTA car, if you will. It just looks like nothing else out there. Also, shout out to Mr. Oliver that's gonna be helping me out, making sure I get this bad boy clean today. So I wanna walk you guys through the current condition of the car and some things to consider while we're doing a deep clean on this. So number one thing I started looking at here was some spots like this. So these could be mineral deposits, this could be wiper fluid. I don't know exactly what this is, and I don't necessarily have a full on game plan of what we're gonna do going into this, but I'll tell you from the start, we're definitely gonna use a pre-wash. Now, this pretty much goes for whenever your car is dirty, you don't wanna mar it up, but it's specifically important on a matte finish vehicle or a very, very soft non-metallic black paint, because we wanna get as much of this dirt and grime off the vehicle before we ever even touch it. So we're going to use an alkaline pre-wash. We want to, of course, especially on matte paint, make sure we are out of the sunshine, the paint is cool, dry, all of that fun stuff before we ever foam that on. What that alkaline pre-wash is going to do is go in there, break down all of this road grime, all the dirt, all of that nasty stuff, so that when we come back to touch it, we're not just scrubbing that into the paint. So huge consideration there. After we've actually gone through and done our pre-wash, rinsed it off, we're going to refoam the car with a pH neutral shampoo, and we're going to actually start our contact wash. Now our contact wash, typically anytime I'm washing a car, honestly, I like to use the 1 bucket method. So putting, I don't know, 8 to 12 wash mitts, depending on the size of the vehicle, in a single bucket, go onto a panel, let's say the hood, do this half of the hood, flip that over, do the other half, then that one gets set aside. We grab a fresh one, do the front bumper, da 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 da. Essentially what we're trying to do there is minimize the amount of marring whatsoever. Again, the tricky thing with matte paint here, you can't fix it. So this can't be repolished, anything like that. After we've done our pH neutral contact wash, then I'll start to make some decisions of what needs to happen. So number one, I want to see what kind of mineral deposits we have left over on this. If we do have mineral deposits, then we're also going to introduce an acidic wash into this. And then fingers crossed, I'm hoping we don't have a ton of iron contamination on this. If we do, I'll end up coming in with an iron remover, spraying it on the surface, letting it dwell, eating that up. Now, I will tell you one thing that is a little tricky with both this paint as well as non-metallic black paint. Anytime we are doing any sort of claying, whether it's with a clay bar or a clay towel, we do have the inherent risk of actually scratching the surface. I would tell you absolutely do not use a normal clay bar. They are abrasive in nature. Clay towels are not abrasive because they're synthetic, But do consider all those iron particulates on the surface there. If you are just kind of rubbing that over the surface, you can introduce some marring into there. So we need to be very diligent with it. I would tell you 9 times out of 10, I would not recommend doing it on matte paint. But if this thing's really, really bad, I want to make sure all that's gone, because again, we're prepping for coating here. The other couple of things that we're going to be doing in today's video, we're going to be cleaning up the engine bay as well as the door jambs. Now, this is always something super important to take into consideration when doing this, of the types of chemicals you're actually using in this, to not leave any sort of staining on the bodywork while you're working on that. If it's were to dry, things like that, especially using alkaline washes or alkaline cleaners, all-purpose cleaners, very, very considerate to figure out what you're doing there. So let's get our pre-wash mixed up. I'll show you through that process, go through all of this, and hopefully we'll have a very sparkly clean, not shiny, Polestar 1 at the end. So I've gone ahead and laid out all the chemicals we're going to be using for this vehicle, and we'll talk about some you should use and shouldn't use. So number 1 here, we're going to start off with our alkaline pre-wash Labo Cosmetica Primus 2.0. Now, I really like using this in a foam cannon. We're going to be using a 1:5 dilution here. I want a little bit more cleaning power. This is very safe to do it this way. Now, do also note you could use this in an IK sprayer. You could use Built Hammer Touchless. There's a bunch of other great pre-washes out there. What I would just tell you is I'd highly recommend, especially on matte paint here, using it in a foam cannon. It gives it a little bit more dwell time. Naturally, you have a little bit more water on the entirety of the surface, and it's not going to dry as quickly. It is really, really important you do not let this dry. So do be aware of that. Now, if you do have some more caked on bugs on the front, like we have here, I'm not sure how long they've actually been on here. I'm actually going to pre-treat our pre-wash with Coach Chemie Green Star. I know that sounds a little weird. These are pretty good at removing bugs, but I found Green Star is really, really good at removing bugs. So I like to dilute this down a little bit, especially on matte paint. I'm probably going to go with between a 1 to 10, 1 to 15, I would say is generally the safe idea. So I'll pre-treat the front end, the glass with this, and then we'll foam on our Primus 2.0. So give it a little bit of both cleaning power there. After we rinse that off is actually then when I'm going to go in and actually start working on the engine bay, door jambs, things like that. Now, the reason I do that instead of doing it first, number 1, we don't want to introduce water onto the surface. It kind of dilutes down our pre-wash here. And number 2, I want the surface to have water on it, because coming back in with something like an all-purpose cleaner here to clean engine bay and door jambs, if the surfaces on the side are completely dry, we can get some sort of staining if you let them be completely dried down. So not a huge fan of doing those first. That's just kind of my general thought process. After we've done that, we'll foam down the car with DIY Detail Incredible Suds Type 2 in our foam cannon. Again, go through, do our contact wash with our 1 bucket wash and about 10 or so wash mitts. Then at that point, we need to kind of figure out what the car situation's looking like. So if we need an iron remover, Armor Detail Supplies iron fallout remover here, amazing, amazing product, and doesn't smell like absolute rotten eggs. If we need it, we'll come in for the synthetic clay towel from DIY Detail. We'll kind of see at that point. Then typically what I'll actually do is dry the vehicle and assess. If it does need some mineral deposit removing over here, we'll move into the acidic stage. So I'll probably dry off some surfaces, see what it looks like. If I'm feeling like we need these, great, then we'll use them. Now, there's plenty of different options when it comes to acidic soaps, just like alkaline. Something like Coach Chemie Reactivation Shampoo, in this particular use case, I'd probably say is a little bit too aggressive. Undiluted here in the bottle, pH of 1. So very, very, very strong chemical here. Whereas CarPro D-Scale over here is still going to go in there, break down mineral deposits, lime scale, things like that, but a pH of 6. So again, just be mindful of the products you're using here. It's not to say that this isn't a bad product. This is kind of a sledgehammer. This is kind of going to get us probably 90% of the way there. It's always good to have stuff like this for those random use cases where we actually need it. So let's get the pre-wash mixed up. Let's foam down the car. We'll rinse that off, start working on the engine bay and door jambs, and continue on with our wash process. All right, we're gonna start off here with our Green Star, and we're just gonna get the whole front end here. Again, this will also help with all these little grills, just release a little bit more dirt. This is not essential, just kind of an extra step I'm going here, because I don't know how long these bugs have been on. While that's sitting on there, we're gonna come in with our Labo Primus 2.0 alkaline pre-wash. Now, this is a very important step to, number one, let this dwell on the car. And again, make sure you're not doing this out in the direct sunlight. But what I can show you down here, I haven't even touched this yet. Look at all the dirt and grime that's pulling off the surface. So you just want to keep an eye on this. You want to make sure it's not drying too quickly and that, yet again, you are out of the sun. Car is cool to the touch before you ever even start this. What you can also do during this stage, depending on how quickly you want to go, is we can actually foam down the engine bay with the pre-wash, which is not a bad idea. So I'm actually going to get this popped open. We'll just foam it down inside there. So that'll help break down the dirt, grime, grease, all of that stuff while this is also working. Cool, so we'll let that do its thing. While this is sitting here, I can also go through, refoam the side if it's starting to get a little dry. So I might just do one quick little layer over it just to help break down more and more of that dirt and grime while this is kind of doing its thing. Just refoam the car now, and you can see what this is gonna do. You kind of broke down that first layer of grime, just a little bit more, totally fine to help. It's not too aggressive, nothing on it. And because you already have solution water on there, it's not going to change anything, but this will give you a little bit more working time of this. And again, the main objective of this, to get as much dirt and grime off as possible before we ever even touch it. So I'm going to let this sit here, then we'll get into our rinse stage. Now that we've got some areas like this up here, hopefully you guys can see that, are starting to dry out, that is my indication, okay, we need to get this thing rinsed down. So let's do a full thorough rinse on this. Then we'll come back, rinse the engine bay, start our contact wash. All right, now that we've rinsed this off, most of the dirt and grime should be gone. If we want a little bit deeper clean, of course, we're fully detailing up this car. We're again gonna grab our Green Star. Now keep in mind, this is already wet, so it's a little bit more diluted. That's totally okay. Again, I think the issue with using an all-purpose cleaner is, like, let's say we get some drips down here, you can actually cause staining in this paint, and especially down the side over there, you can do the same thing. If you're starting off on this, letting it dwell, and you don't kind of notice that it gets on the auxiliary areas, that's where you get yourself into trouble. So now that it's wet on the side of the car, I'm not as worried about it. And what I'll also do here for some extra lubrication and cleaning power as well, is I'm actually gonna foam this down with our pH neutral soap, let this soak, and then we'll come in, agitate all this, rinse it off, and then we'll be done with the engine bay, of course, until the end when we actually want to dry it. All right, so while this is sitting here dwelling, I'm gonna come in with my wheel face brush that is super, super soft here. And even these matte areas, not a problem, just gently coming in here, getting all that dirt and grime kind of loosened up. We're not sitting here going crazy scrubbing. We're just trying to get, I guess, the general dirt off of this. And for the areas that are plastic like this here, we're gonna come in with our fender well brush. We're just gonna scrub all this down. Make sure we hit every nook and cranny, engine cover, all this type of stuff. Now, for more intricate areas that harbor quite a bit of dirt and grime, like around this latch, use a little lug nut brush, can get a little bit more intricate. Spend as much time as you physically need here. And again, the nice part is on the paint, we've got our pH neutral shampoo sitting on there, so we're not worried about water spotting, anything like that. Just be mindful of it. And again, if we're not working in the sun here, we're gonna be a heck of a lot better. So let me finish this up and we'll get this rinsed down, quickly talk about door jams, get back into our contact. All right, guys, so from just after our pre-wash here and full rinse down, you can see this thing is looking pretty phenomenal. All down the side, dirt, grime, pretty much everything gone. That is, my friends, why I love pre-washes so much. I mean, it just does so much work for you, so much safer. So again, my biggest tip here for using or working with delicate paint in general, use pre-washes. Use the heck out of them. They're absolutely amazing. So next step here, we're gonna refoam this down with our pH neutral shampoo. We'll get our bucket ready with our 10 or so wash mitts. Come in here, do our contact wash. Can tell you I've already felt the paint. Think we're looking pretty darn good here, folks. All right, guys, so now time to come in and do our actual contact wash here. Just trying to get any of the remainder of the dirt and grime. It's feeling pretty good. So you can see I'm just gently working in straight line motions here. Then I'm gonna take the same exact wash mitt. I'm gonna flip this over. We'll wash the other side of the hood here. And then this one's gone. Now, I gotta say, in terms of contamination, can still feel definitely a little bit on here, but we'll get to that point when we actually need to. Again, the one bucket wash method, still in my impression, whether you're, washing a car with hard paint or soft paint, whatever it is, my impression, the best way to do it, because I can, work down this door, had a ton of dirt and grime in it. Then once I get to here, flip this, I'm gonna hit this lower section here. Then once that's gone, that's gone. Then I grab a fresh one, come back to here. That's gonna minimize so much marring, and especially on delicate paint like this, we're worried about scratching it up. We definitely don't wanna deal with that. So the other thing I would tell you that's always really important with working on this cars is you got to work organized, right? So know where you've been, kind of figure out what you're doing, and don't start just trying to do too much at once. That's how you get in trouble with these things. So, especially what I was talking about with the engine bay, with your cleaner, that type of stuff, just be mindful of that, right? And be aware of your surroundings and all of that fun stuff there. It makes all the difference. Okay, so in this particular case, if I was just, maintenance washing this car, I would probably rinse this off, use a drying aid, boom, ready to go. Now on matte paint, you want to be mindful of the drying aid you're using. I'd just probably use Adam's waterless wash. In the case of we're actually putting a ceramic coating on here, I want to ensure that the surface is perfectly clean and contaminant free. So at this point, what I think I'm going to do, because I definitely do feel a bit of contamination, I'm just being very gentle, tons of lubrication on the surface of this. But as I glide my hand over this, I will feel some slight bumps clumps in it, which to me says, yeah, okay, we do have a little bit of iron particulates on here. So I'm now gonna rinse this off. I'm gonna spray down the entire car with this over here, and then we'll kind of rinse some sections off, see how it is. If at that point, most of that contamination isn't gone, what I'll actually do is then grab out the clay towel. We'll use it in our same wash bucket over there to add tons of lubrication to it, and we'll go through and actually clay down the paint with our synthetic clay towel. All right, so I just did a little work off camera. I took our iron remover, sprayed it all over the hood, let it dwell for about 3 to 4 minutes before it got to the point of, okay, it needs to get rinsed off. And as I still feel this, yeah, still a little contamination left. So that means we actually need to do mechanical agitation to actually remove this. Now, this point is really important. So inside here, we've got our DIY Detail synthetic clay mitt in our pH neutral shampoo. Again, no dirt went back into this bucket. All the other wash mitts went into the dirty bucket. So this is fresh, clean, very lubricated water. So what we're gonna do here is take our Armor Detail Supply iron remover, and we're just gonna spray section by section here. So we're gonna let this do its thing, and this also has a ton of lubrication in it and is gonna help that mitt glide. We're not gonna be putting a ton of pressure on that whatsoever. It's actually just friction that is gonna make that thing work. Now, when using this on matte paint, we want to ensure, number one, that we've got our solution bucket of soap, and then number two, we are flipping it regularly and putting it back in the bucket, cleaning it out, making sure everything's clean. So any of those iron particulates that are in here aren't going to just get scrubbed into the surface. So I'm going to let this sit for another 1 to 2 minutes here, and then we'll actually start claying. All right, so I've already done this side here, and what we'll do, again, I've got this right in the bucket here. Every time I put this back in here, I'm gonna squeeze it out, make sure it's clean. We have tons of lubrication on here. So when I come to the actual paint here, I'm gonna work in small sections. So I'm gonna spray just like that right on there, and when we come onto this area, I'm just gently working this in. I am not pressing down hard. I am simply just making sure this thing is not falling off of the surface here. And as I come back up here, oh my gosh, buttery, buttery smooth. And then I can immediately feel up here just a little contamination all over the place. So again, now that I come back onto this, flip that over, I've got a fresh, clean side, a lubrication from the soap and that iron remover, and I'm working that in. And then again, I'll flip this here. I just want to keep this section small, keep everything lubricated, and we'll be having a very, very safe time here. So I've already flipped that inside out. Just gonna work into this. Boom. Come back over here. And then now this will go back into the bucket, and I'm actually gonna rinse this panel off. I like to do this section by section, especially don't wanna leave that iron remover on there too long. So we're looking good. Let me finish up the rest of this, and I'll meet you when we're done claying. All right, guys, I just finished down rinsing this thing, and now I have my Adams waterless wash here, which is gonna help us as a drying aid. Now, the first time I do this, I'm gonna give it just a little bit more so it gets a little soaked into the towel here, and we're just gonna work through the entire vehicle. Now, what I'm looking for here is any sort of water spotting, etchings, anything like that. At this point, I'll probably go around, do a few sections, see how it's looking. If I see any sort of water spotting, mineral deposits, anything like that, now would be the time to come back in with our acidic wash and quickly do that. What I'm seeing so far is it looks pretty good. It's really humid in here right now, so you might still be able to see a few little spots, but it's actually looking pretty perfect to me. So I'll continue drying this down. If I find anything different, I will move into the acidic stage, but let's get this bad boy dried up. I know the light's a little weird in here, but I want to show you a couple things. So I've gone through, I've dried the whole car, at least mostly. So all the little nooks and crannies down here, you can see water still remaining. I'm actually going to use the blow car dryer. It's an essential thing, especially on cars like these. Mineral deposits like that will just continually drip and you'll get staining in the paint, stuff like that. You don't want to deal with that. So every time you wash this car, you got to make sure it is drip dry, everything gone. So I'll spend time, go through the door jambs, you know, fuel cap over here, charge port over there, making sure everything is bone dry. Now I want to show you a couple things. I had to open this up to get some humidity out of here. It was just crazy and kind of streaking all over the paint. But I want to show you a couple things I actually noticed here. Now this is just the nerd in me. Hopefully you guys can kind of see this. You can actually see the carbon weave. I'm not sure if it's going to come through on camera, but literally reminds me of like an F40. You can faintly see it in certain specific light. But I want to bring you guys over here and show you how nice this thing is looking now that we've got some actual daylight on it. And you can see, man, did we get a really nice thorough clean. And of course, no marring from the claying, really making sure went through there. Lots of lubrication with the iron remover. That, number one, has a ton of lubrication in it. Number two, the pH neutral shampoo that we are dunking our clay mitt or clay towel in, I guess, is adds lubrication there. So you're not going to mar it up. I just want to, you know, constantly flipping that thing over to make sure we're not picking anything up and putting it back into the surface. But man, down the doors, this thing's looking absolutely phenomenal. Now I did notice a couple things up here I want to show to you guys. You can kind of faintly see it. It definitely comes up more on camera, but you can see some streaks like this. That's kind of the hard part with getting a vehicle you don't really know the history with, right? So I don't know if something had dripped on here at some point. What I will do actually after this, before I go in and coat this, is I'll go through with a panel prep spray and I will absolutely go to town. So if this has any residue, oil residue in there, should come out. The unfortunate thing is there's really nothing you can do, right? If this was, you know, normal paint, I could polish that, but nothing you can really do here. So again, just very diligent, and I really got to spend some time getting all these water drips out so we don't have lines going down the car. But man, this thing is looking freaking phenomenal. By the way, I'm sure somebody has already commented this and not even watched the whole video. Yes, I will be cleaning up the wheels. I'm actually going to do that in a separate video. I'm going to pull them off, probably clean all them, polish all them, and we're going to coat everything, including the calipers. Knowing the Polestar ones, these things just like hammer brake dust like crazy, and also clean up the suspension while we're in there. So we do still have a little bit more work before I actually panel prep spray this and fully coat it. But man, this thing's looking 10 times better than when it came in. So let me spend some time, go through the door jambs, dry out all the nooks and crannies, and I'll meet you back here for some final thoughts. All right, guys, well, we'll finish this one off here. And I guess one of the biggest takeaways from this video that you should take away is that no matter if it's matte paint, very soft paint, you should be really considering and thinking through how you're actually washing your car and practicing safe wash practices. In general, I think, you know, matte paint is not necessarily harder to maintain than gloss paint. It's just slightly different, right? You know, especially when we get to the drying stage of things, we want to ensure that we're not leaving any sort of water left behind that could possibly leave any sort of mineral deposits. And just in general, I guess, thinking through the process of how we actually go through and clean them, right? I think normally when I would start with a gloss painted vehicle, I'd probably start on the engine bay first instead of doing a pre-wash on the paint, the engine, and then while the car is wet, actually cleaning the engine bay, door jambs, areas like that. I think it's just my process and my thinking and the way I've learned to detail over the years. And again, it's pretty impressive what you can do with a car by really utilizing the chemicals and utilizing the process to really go through and do a safe wash practice. So I guess your biggest takeaway, you should always be washing your car safely, but it's really important to understand these principles, this practice, and pretty much the way that I go about things all the time is pretty much exactly what you saw here. So I still have a ton more work to do on this Polestar one. We've got to polish up the trim, we've got to coat the glass, the matte paint as well, do an interior, pull off the wheels, dial everything in so that it looks just like it did, or if not slightly better, the day it rolled off of the factory assembly line. So thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you on another one soon. Bye-bye.